we'll start. I don't know. Not yet.
I got nervous.
Yeah, I got nervous. It's on mute.
I know.
This just never comes up
Let's go
right.
with Don.
Don LaGreca. All right, ready? Start the show.
Welcome to Nightmare 365. This is the center of weirdness for the entire planet.
There's tons of unsolved mysteries out there. Witches still exist.
What about monsters?
Do you believe in ghosts?
Bigfoot is not out there.
Bigfoot is definitely out there. UFOs are real.
UFOs might be real.
Do you believe in conspiracies?
I consider myself a conspiracy theorist.
I want to believe in all these case files.
Trust no one. The government lies to you.
We're just two brothers exploring the unexplained, mysterious, and spookiness that lives among us. What is going on, all you mystery seekers? Welcome to the center of weirdness known as Nightmare 365 Radio. We are talking Case File 66, Jack the Ripper, Part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2. You have... Oh, we're opening up the Eerie Vault for this one, for sure.
Just open it up.
Open it up, always. It's like a good Erie, Indiana intro. Do you remember that? Do you remember that Erie, Indiana intro where he walks up to the attic? He has a key. I got the key. This is the one from Marshall Teller you gave me.
Do you like that one or Tales from the Crypt better?
The opening?
Yeah. Or Twilight Zone or Unsolved Mysteries?
Well, the whole opening to Tales from the Crypt, I think, is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like just opening and nostalgic stuff that I really enjoy. I mean, I was like the same age when Erie, Indiana was a few years behind, but like the same age as Erie, Indiana.
Same guy in Hocus Pocus.
Same guy in Hocus Pocus, which I love, you hate.
Yeah, I'm not a big guy on Hocus Pocus.
You're not a big guy.
I'm not a big guy on Hocus Pocus. Nope.
I don't know why. But yeah, I do like those intros, and Unsolved Mysteries, like that opening was really creepy. Are you excited for July 1st?
Oh, yeah,
the
Netflix.
Reboot on Netflix of Unsolved Mysteries.
What do you mean the reboot?
I don't know. What do you want to call it? It's like they're kind of bringing it back.
They're re-airing it.
Robert Stack isn't in it.
I know.
It's not going to be the same. They better have the same opening. I didn't see if
They won't.
I mean, they better. Like in the previews, they had like
I heard it's William Shatner.
William Shatner.
Yeah, William Shatner's
No.
going to do it.
I didn't read anybody like who is actually going to, I guess, be the host of it. So that'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm excited for it. It's not gonna be the same without Robert Stack, and it was really creepy. And it's the same producers and everything from Stranger Things, and like a lot of their documentaries. So it's pretty interesting.
I like Stranger Things.
I know you do. Does it give you that nostalgic feel?
Yeah.
Like we're living in that town. We're hunting for
Dude, I would love that.
hunting for the unknown.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
we kind of did that as a kid.
Yeah, I know, but living in that town, that would be awesome.
And that's kind of what we're doing on the show. We're hunting for the unknown.
Hunting
Do
for
we
the
know?
unknown.
Yeah, this one, I don't know. As far as Jack the Ripper goes, we're talking about the suspects. I have 6 suspects, more 3, I guess I would say, that I personally like.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do this, it's more, I would say, it's an opinion because I don't think anybody knows. And
No, I don't
every
think anyone
every
knows.
documentary that I've watched, and there's tons of them out there, whether it's from Discovery Channel, History Channel, on YouTube alone itself, and even websites, which at the end of the show, I think we're both going to take the online poll that they had.
Mm-hmm.
You could vote on who do you think Jack the Ripper is at jacktheripper.org. I'm going to link that in the show notes for this. I had it in the last show notes for Jack the Ripper. But again, like this is just my personal favorites. It's not something like, oh my God, we've done tons of research on, and this is like definitely who it is.
Yeah.
And because all these people, no matter who you listen to, they all make great points, but I don't think anybody truly knows who Jack the Ripper is.
No, I don't think they do either. I mean, I don't think you'll ever know. Even if when they have DNA evidence, which we'll talk about, that could be misleading because you don't know really when that DNA got on
Sure.
that person or that object.
Yeah, and then we also have our weird news correspondent, Connie from the UK. She chimed in and she gave us 3 suspects that she thinks are, I guess, her top 3.
Yeah.
I mean, she said she could probably give us tons more, but she sent over her top 3. We'll read them off probably first and get like the take on it and, one of her suspects is on my top list.
Okay.
So I think, I don't know. You didn't tell me your list, so I don't know
No.
your list.
I only have 3 on there.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I narrowed it down. I had my like least, when I had like this list that I gave you, I had my like least favorites,
Okay.
and then all the way to like my favorites. Even though when I was reading one of them, after a while, I was like, I don't know if I believe that anymore.
Sure.
But I think that's kind of like Jack the Ripper, and that's why it's part of our serial killer series.
Do you think it will ever be solved?
I don't think so.
Do you want it to be ever solved?
I don't think I really do. I like the mystery behind this one. I like not knowing. I like the debates. I like turning on YouTube and then going down all these avenues that people say, like, "Oh, I solved." Like,
No, I hate when they do that. Like, oh, I solved Jack the Ripper, or Jack the Ripper solved, or 100 years later revisited Jack the Ripper.
Oh, definitely solved. Yeah, like when
Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, watch how many videos come up. I didn't do like a Google search.
Jack-o'-lantern Press right there.
Jack-
First one that pops up. They're writing a sequel to their book. It's called The Blue Hole.
Ooh, I heard they're coming to the Blue Hole when we jump in.
They better.
Yeah, like when you come up, there's like this is a pretty big.
Oh, look, we're the second one.
Oh, look at that, right there. Yeah, like Jack the Ripper, the definite story.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
Do they know the definite story?
The Ripper.
The full documentary on Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper, the official unmasking documentary.
Oh, this guy looks good right there.
Making fun of him.
Clown.
You won't believe who Jack the Ripper is. New DNA evidence.
See, that's
Well, it's misleading.
it
But
is misleading.
They do have DNA evidence. and
Goddamn
we're gonna talk
clickbait
about
right
it.
there.
But look at how many documentaries there are
Mm-hmm.
of just Jack the Ripper. Some of them are like just shared off of TV, and then also just
The Yorkshire Ripper.
which I also think it's interesting and not too many people know. Like if you look at Jack the Ripper, a lot of people believe Jack the Ripper came to the United States and also
that's what they say.
originated from the United States. And one of I guess a suspect that wasn't on my list but people did talk about was H.H. Holmes.
Yeah.
And we did a show on it. I don't know. Did we do a Weekday Weird?
I think we did a Weekday Weird on it.
Or was it a full-blown podcast?
I
I would
don't-
have to look at my notes, but yeah. This one's really interesting. So we'll jump right into, I guess, Connie's list. And don't forget, this show is sponsored by Jack-O-Lantern Press. And if you want to check out their book, Transylvania Traveler, check out jackolanternpress.com. And that's also going to be in the show notes, too.
Wah, wah, wah.
Definitely that's for Tom and Mike. But
Tom just said, Greg, get your swimming shit on.
did he?
Yep.
For the Blue Hole? Yeah, we got to do that. You definitely have to jump in the Blue Hole.
I'm down, man.
When did we do that episode?
The Blue Hole?
Yeah.
3 weeks ago.
Ooh, we got to get in on that. And we've also been testing out some new equipment, so this might not be the setup going forward. All right, so let's jump into it, man.
Let's jump into it.
All right,
Matt's neighbor is Jack the Ripper.
My neighbor is the Klopek, not Jack the Ripper. Actually,
Is he going to celebrate the 4th of July with us?
yeah, he can. For sure.
You going to invite him over?
I'll invite him over. Yeah, so on Weird News correspondent from the UK, Connie, she has, I won't read her, I guess this would be her order, I guess because she numbered it 1, 2, 3. So her number 3 suspect, I don't think any of us had this one on our list. And I want to look at what, and this was kind of interesting when I did look it up and she sent me this.
Yeah.
All right, so her third suspect is, I'm probably going to fuck up this guy's name too, Dr. Francis Tumblety.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, so he was an American doctor. He had intense bitterness and hatred towards women. He was the chief inspector, John Littlechild, head of the Metro Police and Special Branch, later in 1913, said that he was a likely one. So what does that mean? I guess he is further up on the list.
Yeah.
This one, I don't know. I mean, he had a collection of uterus specimens, so that's kind of
weird.
odd. He had a hatred towards women, so that's a motive too. And it seems like this gentleman could have committed the murders. It leans towards it, but there's no physical evidence. No one pointed him at the scene. But when I look at jacktheripper.org, which I said we're going to vote here, and there's a lot of votes. There's about 1,500 over 1,500 people actually voted on this website so far, and this was updated June 26th today, and the doctor was number 2 on the list at 13.24% of the votes. I thought that was pretty high.
Yeah, that is pretty high.
So a lot of people believe Connie's number 3 is the second highest rated on this website as a likely suspect.
There was a conspiracy theory that I found. I don't know
Really?
if you saw this, like going through it.
Do
His
you
name,
want to save that for after Connie's list, or do you want to
no,
say
no,
that?
this ties into it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
The guy, he was a prince.
Oh, man.
Albert Victor.
All right, yeah.
Did you hear about him? Because he impregnated one of the prostitutes.
Right. I think this was the one that's based on the Johnny Depp movie From Hell,
Yeah.
where that was kind of like the plot. They said, all right, one of the princes had a baby or, sexual relationships with one of the prostitutes, and that's why they deemed, and like all these 5 prostitutes knew.
Yeah, they all knew.
Yeah.
But I wonder if you can connect them. Like
That was a cool well, it wasn't a documentary. I mean, I watched too many documentaries, but that was a cool movie, From Hell. I haven't watched it in years.
Yeah.
But that is a great movie, I think.
Like, I wonder if you could go back and like kind of connect them all the prostitutes, if they all knew each other, or if they all knew about that.
I'm sure if they worked in the same area, they came in contact with each other at some point. So it is possible.
So that was like a cool conspiracy theory that I found.
Yeah, and we didn't lay the groundwork. If you're listening to this show for the first time, go back and listen to part 1 of Jack the Ripper, because we did kind of give
the backstory as much as we could.
Yeah, right. As the killings, all the victims' names, the kind of the police reports, everything like that. So if you're jumping in, we're just talking about suspects. That's pretty much where we're at on part 2. And like I said, this is just kind of our opinion, and then also Connie's. Her number 2 on the list for Connie is Jacob Levy.
Okay.
And Jacob Levy was a butcher. He lived in the heart of the Ripper territory, surfacing. He suffered from delusions, right? And he caught syphilis from a prostitute, which is a possible motive.
Yeah, that's a possible motive. And like
Right.
all the murders were gruesome and, kind of, I don't know what you want to say, like surgically done almost, where they hacked up the bodies. So, I mean, a butcher would fit in that kind of description and kind of,
Yeah, he was committed
profile.
to asylum later on, and then he said in his own words he was compelled to do acts that his conscience could not like understand or comprehend.
It's like Son of Sam.
Right, and then he felt like if he wasn't restrained, he would commit some of these acts of violence on people. So that was her number 2 on her list,
Okay.
and that Levy was not on the list as far as high percentages from like people that voted on him. But then again, that was great. I didn't have Jacob Levy on my list at all either.
Sure.
So I mean, it's just kind of good to, I guess, go that route if that's what we're looking at. I'm trying to be as transparent, but I'm just, again, this is just my feelings and from the documentaries I watched. So I was probably influenced. It's almost like the JFK to me.
Yeah,
where,
if
like,
you watch something, you get...
Right. If I watch like the JFK documentary, I'm like, oh man, that makes total sense. I could buy that theory.
Like the Oliver Stone one, JFK.
Yeah. And then like all of a sudden, like any documentaries, and then every documentary that I watched on, Jack the Ripper, I was like, that makes total sense.
Well, that's just they're throwing out their point of view and all the evidence. Like they'll disregard some evidence and put in evidence that backs up their theory.
All the shows seem to have, I guess, their own agenda. I don't know if it was an agenda, but they're like, all right,
they have their
already made up
suspect,
their
and they have to make everything fit
Tailored
around
to
it.
it.
Yeah.
All right, so Connie's last suspect is Carl Fagenbaum.
Carl Fagenbaum.
He is on my list.
Yeah,
All right.
he's up there.
Yeah, I think I'll go more into it. I mean, she just wrote pretty much the same thing that I had. He was a German merchant sailor known to have been in the area on every date of Jack the Ripper murder that did occurred. He was supposedly a psychopath who was admitted to mutilating women, which is interesting. And his own lawyer believed that Carl was in fact Jack the Ripper. And then he did immigrate to America in 1890, which I'm going to jump more into this because then there was a killing that was very similar to the time that he was in America of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
And like we said in the first episode, Jack the Ripper, you know, even though the Conical Five, as they're known, or, you know, like the Whitechapel murders, like as Jack the Ripper's known as, the Conical Five, there was only 5, but we did mention a couple of others that don't really get talked about a lot, but are right on the fringe of being, you know, part of that group and possibly Jack the Ripper himself. So those were her 3. I thought they were really good. And I'll just tell you right now that Aaron Kaminsky is not on the list, which I was very surprised at.
Why? Because that's like the favorite.
Well, her favorite, and then she was also like, he was also on my list.
No, yeah, I get that.
And if you look into some of the, you know, like detective work that was done by certain people, and I'll mention their names.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't come up on their website for voting. I mean, he could have been, you know, other choices, which then he would have been up here higher. But like the lowest one on here is 6.61%.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the actual lowest on here is just some local nobody that was at 4%. So I guess, you know, some people don't have
the
ideas on
unknown.
that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you want to start off your list? Because I think what we're going to do for this episode too, if you like this discussion, you want to hear a bit more. I have 3 suspects that we'll share just for our Patreon only fans. And that'll be its own episode outside of part 2. So if you like the content, make sure to check that out as well. Do you want to go like back and forth on this one? Or do you
Yeah, I
wanna,
would say we go back and forth on
All right.
this.
First one you have.
Like the most likely?
No.
or least
Go from the least likely, because I have 6 on the list.
So
And
I'll go with I'll give you my top 3 picks.
top 3.
Top
All right.
3 picks.
Yeah, I'm not going to go. I'll leave some of the 2 for actual the Patreon episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have my least favorite, and then actually, which is really surprising, one of them is actually on one of my least favorite is on the list here as one of their top vote getters for. So go ahead. So
John Druitt. Do you have it?
I don't
on your
have
list?
No, I don't have him on my list.
Like there's no concrete evidence like supporting that he is Jack the Ripper himself. However, some detectives believe that he was.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll have to look that one up.
he was well educated. He was actually an Oxford graduated from like a good family,
Yeah.
but some believe like he was sexually insane from like the reports around like town. Also, he was from the area that all the killings took place in. He only lived a couple miles away,
Right.
and he was seen around when
Yeah.
the murders took place. And a lot of the detectives said that the murderer, Jack
Right.
the Ripper himself,
Yeah.
would be a local resident of that area, and he fit in there.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. What else did he say? There's some good information, like just reading it from here.
Yeah. So the other thing, like support, like why people think it was him. Only a couple weeks after the last murder
Right.
of Jack the Ripper, his body was floating. He was found dead, and that's when the murders subsequently stopped. So that does support, like, all right, he was a local, well-educated.
Yeah.
He was sexually insane by reports. Some of the London detectives thought it was him, and once the killing stopped, you know, his body was found.
Yeah, his body was found December 31st, 1888, which is really interesting, too. Like, yeah, actually looking this up and reading some of it,
Mm-hmm.
it amazes me how many, I guess you could say, like, insane people, like, were around at this time.
Well, yeah, man,
Like,
they didn't
look-
really have, like, mental institutions,
Just
really.
even going to, like, the Wikipedia page, there's, like, 30 people that are suspects.
Mhm.
Even some of the, like, there was another great website, too, that has just, like, it's called Cold Case or something.
Yeah, this one's called Nightmare365.com.
Yeah, it's on there too. And it just was really fascinating to see how many people like were suspects, how many people the police actually questioned.
Trust no one.
Definitely don't trust anyone if you were in the streets of London in 1888.
You got to run. You
Yeah,
gotta- you
there's a
gotta
lot
get
of
the hell out.
carriages and stuff going around in that town. The London, you know, the Big Ben. Yeah, so one of the other things too I want to mention too, which no one brings up,
Mhm.
and it was really interesting reading, and I found this from whitechapeljack.com,
Okay.
and then you could just type in Jill the Ripper,
Yep.
and I thought this was really interesting one because they have, I guess she was a role, or she was a suspect long after the whatever. This woman was executed in 1890, and she was, let's say, reading up. I don't have her in my notes. She's not one of my top suspects, but
I've heard her. Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah. So this suspect, Mary Piercey, I guess I'm saying that correctly. I always fuck up names, so I apologize. But Mary, she filled the role. I guess she was part of the prostitute ring. It's really interesting. I think it could be, a possibility.
Yeah, I had that on my list.
Oh, really?
Well, my second one would be a wild card.
All right. So this would be the wild card?
This would be a wild card. I would pick
Let's
her.
hear it.
Well, I would pick her. Either somebody that's not known to like locals or anything, like a traveler almost.
Right.
Or one of the London cops.
Yeah, that's not brought up either. Like with all the suspects, that's talked about, it could have been a cop as well. Like some type of hatred, or I don't know. I'm sure cops in this time used prostitution as well.
Yeah, so my thinking is either A, it's a fellow prostitute that's doing it. B, it's a cop that's actually doing it because he knows when the patrols are. He knows like where to do it and where they're not going. So he has like the perfect in and outs of it. And then the third option would be like a traveler type guy who's, just came in that no one really knows about.
Right. Yeah, this one, Mary, is kind of interesting because she was spotted in the time of, the Jack the Ripper killings.
Yeah.
And there was one part where you actually read in here, it was said that she was seen pushing like a carriage and talking to different bystanders. And then, who knows where she was going, what she was doing. And
and a carriage is like a good cover, so you can have like your mutilation tools in there.
Right. Not only that, too. Like, think about this. Like, she could have had some type of dress or shawl on that she could have covered herself up and put this like big dress on like after. Like, I'm not saying like I don't know how you would do this in the time frame, but they
like
did mention
disguise.
this. Like, you could actually get away with having blood all over you.
Oh,
and she could just put this shawl on and just walk, and there would be like nobody would ever notice, like nobody would ever think like, oh, she's doing all the killings.
Yeah, no one really thought about that back then, like women killers.
Right, like
really.
women serial killers. As much as there's more men serial killers, there is, like, if you actually look on the list and part of our serial killer series, I definitely want to talk about some of the women that actually go about doing some of these serial killings. Like
they're kind of like, when you think of a serial killer, you think of like men.
Right.
You really don't think of women.
Do you ever see that the movie Monster, I believe it's called? What was her name? Charlize Theron, where she played the actual killer. Okay. And then she went around just like killing people. Well, like
Mr. Brooks.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. That was a good movie too, with Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
But yeah, that movie was interesting because she was a prostitute, but she was killing like the people that came to her.
That's
so like
you just don't do that, man. You just don't go there.
Well, yeah, if you start hearing stuff like this, so a lot of the like serial killings, this is where they talked about in a lot of the documentaries. It was easy targets. Yeah. But then was there really motive? Like this was just a easy way to get with somebody and not like attack at them and have them scream, because it's like, all right, hey, I'm going to pay you. Let's go in this alley or let's go to this room. Yeah. And then.
Well, yeah, that's a big.
Well, then, yeah, one of the theories too with Jill the Ripper is she knew the women.
Yeah,
like
she did.
That's like a theory. Not saying that like Mary knew all the women, but like if you were you
were in that work or trade, like you kind of like know.
Right. So maybe she had a vendetta against some of these women. So I thought it was very possible. I thought about adding. Yeah. I didn't really like as far as a suspect. It did seem like this Mary Piercey was somebody that could possibly be it, because it did seem like she was deranged. It did see like there was even a quote I found where she was having a problem with mice and was trying to kill them, and she said she like enjoyed killing these mice. So I don't know if she did get some satisfaction as from killing people. Yeah. But then at the same time, like it was just one of those things that it was odd. It was just, I don't know. So that's cool that you had that, like, as far as a wild card.
I would say wild card.
Wild card.
Wild card. Just throw that out there.
Just throwing that out there. Could be Jill the Ripper. So I guess I should give one of my list. I mean, that wasn't really on my list. And let's see. One of the ones that I found, I was kind of toying with this one because this one kind of correlates, which I'll mention it.
Okay.
But like David Cohen, I really liked him, but he also correlates with Aaron Kaminsky. So I'll like leave them two together. But on my list was James Kelly.
Okay, yeah, I did
James
hear about
Kelly,
him.
yeah, he was first identified as a suspect by Terrence Sharkleys in Jack the Ripper's 100 Years of Investigating in 1987. This book was written. And then also another book, Prisoner 1 or 1167. And that was the madman who was Jack the Ripper. That was by Jim Tully in 1997. And this guy interested me because we know for a fact in 1883 he killed his wife by stabbing her in the neck. And then he was deemed insane. He was committed to the asylum, Broadmoor Asylum, and which he escaped in 1888. And conveniently in 1888 we know Jack the Ripper struck.
Which is crazy.
So that it led me to be like, oh crap, all right, he's killed before.
Yep, he can kill again.
Right. So does he have hatred or does he have some type of satisfaction, I guess, or craving to kill people? He killed his wife.
Yeah, I wonder what he did. It didn't say though what he killed his wife for, right? Like what the argument was over.
No, I would have to like go back and look in just from my notes. Like it just said his wife was killed and two people wrote books and naming him a suspect. And then
Well, just because I would like to know like what he killed her for, and like if he had a vendetta against like prostitutes, and that's why he went after them.
It seemed like he was pretty smart because when he escaped the asylum in 1888, he fashioned his own key to get out.
That's awesome.
I don't, like I wouldn't even know where to start, like whittling away, like trying to figure out which one works and how it fits in that thing.
That's a lot of
So
time.
yeah, it seems like he was pretty smart, but then again, I don't know. Like, was he delusional and then also really smart? And he was
Sort of like a Rain Man.
Rain Man. Yeah, just flouting out numbers. Can do all
Rain,
that stuff.
Rain Man.
Yeah, which was also interesting because there was a New York Police Department cold case detective, and this was a documentary that I did watch too on the Discovery Channel named Jack the Ripper in America,
Yep.
where
I did
Ed
hear
Norris claimed that James Kelly was Jack the Ripper, and he was also, featured just a couple different connections that he has reported. Norris reported like when he escaped, the asylum, the file that he had on him from the escape definitely fit like the whole, I guess you would say, profile of, like a serial killer.
Yeah.
Like, but there was never, I guess, a perfect match to Jack the Ripper from James Kelly. So he's on my list. He's not like the top of my list.
Yeah, but he's in there.
But he's in there. And I do have three people like that were, I guess ahead of him at like the least suspects.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed, his connection to it. It was interesting because we know he definitely killed his wife. But that doesn't make him like an
it doesn't
actual
make
killer.
him. Yeah, it doesn't make him an actual killer or a serial killer. He just killed his wife.
Right. Who's on your list? Is
Top-
this your top?
top.
So this would be your top. Should I give another one?
You can.
I guess because I have really two that I'm kind of toying with, but then like a third one always comes in. But
Sure.
all right, so I'm going to connect this, right? So David Cohen was also on my list, which I'll also connect it to Aaron Kaminsky.
He's number one.
Oh, for you?
Yep.
Oh, shit. All right. We're going to get there. So David Cohen, for me, he's a 23-year-old Polish Jew who was incarcerated at another asylum. So all these guys that are on these lists have some kind of connection to asylums, and they have some kind of mental illness. And then also, this was another book that was written on him, The Crimes, Detection, and the Death of Jack the Ripper in 1987. It seems like 100 years after, like, Jack the Ripper became, like, an interesting case to come into where people started writing a lot of books about it. I don't know, was it like a fascination thing, like, for the 100th anniversary of it?
Maybe.
So people started pumping out books. But, yeah, also the person in here... Fido, I guess that's how you would say his name.
Fido. Was that a dog?
No, that's the guy's
FIFO?
name. I mean, I don't know if that's correct.
Hi ho. Hi ho.
But what's interesting too was with him is like David Cohen, he kind of gets lopped into like the John Doe of its time,
Okay.
like the Cohen as well. But then they also mention Kaminsky,
Mhm.
or I guess that's how you would say it because it's spelled different. Kosminski as, where Cohen was Kaminsky.
Mm-hmm.
So could there have been like a correlation and this guy was just misidentified?
Could be.
But then also in the book case, the case that haunt us, former FBI criminal profile John Douglas, no relation to us,
Our uncle
now. He asserted that the behavior and the clues gathered from the murders at the point of the person known to the police as David Cohen. So he points his finger at David Cohen, but there's no real physical evidence from what I found.
I would wonder if the
He
FBI did do a profile on Jack the Ripper.
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of people that did.
Like, how old, what they do for work. Like, because they can pretty much narrow that down.
Well,
And sometimes they're wrong, sometimes they're right. But
Right.
like in the Unabomber case, they were way off.
right.
Or like if people like spend time in prison,
Yeah.
they'll be off by like that time frame. So let's say like I'm 30 now.
Right.
I spent 10 years in prison. So like they'll be like, okay, like this killer is 20 years old.
Yeah.
Just because your mental state isn't like what it would be.
True.
So sometimes they're off, sometimes they're on.
Yeah, and this was interesting. Obviously, this is coming years later. Same thing. I don't know if this was some type of, like resurgent for Jack the Ripper, like because it was 100 years later. So everybody started like to, dig up on it, and it just became mainstream again.
Well, that was
But-
like one of the Sherlock Holmes movies.
True. But he was also identified as Fido, where he was part of the leather apron,
Yeah.
where they really called it. And a lot of people did think it had a connection to the Jewish population as far as killing. So he does meet certain criterias,
Sure.
and he has, that whole Aaron Kaminsky or Kosminski connection, which was kind of interesting to me. That's really what caught my eye, but he's not on the list as far as, what was voted on jacktheripper.org.
Wonder why.
I don't know. And yeah, I guess let's, talk about my, second one. But I
Okay.
also have Aaron Kaminsky there too, just for the simple fact that
You have Aaron Kaminsky as your first?
no, I don't. Like who I really like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you after Aaron Kaminsky.
All right. So yeah, I like Aaron Kaminsky.
Do you like him because now in 2014, in September of 2014, they had I'm not going to pronounce this name.
The DNA.
Yeah, they had this doctor do an expert in historical DNA analysis announce that they had been commissioned by a British author, Russell Edwards, to study the shawl said to be found at victim Catherine Eddowes that she had on, or they had extracted some DNA. Like they had her DNA on it and some male DNA that matches female line descendants of Eddowes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching this documentary too, because I think this was made as a documentary as well. And they had the also DNA evidence from Kosminski's, I guess that's how you'd say it, more than sister. So his descendant.
Sure. Well, that's how they'll get DNA off of a living relative.
Why do you like him? And looking at it too, this was big because on jacktheripper.org, all the voting, 16.15%
Thinks it's him.
thinks it's him.
Well,
is that just because of the DNA?
I would say yes, the DNA.
Right.
But that's not why I like him.
Okay.
Because like the DNA you could throw out as something that was just there. Maybe he was with her. Maybe he was, the boyfriend of the girl, or he just hired her as a prostitute the one night, and like that's how his DNA got on there.
True.
So like it doesn't necessarily mean that he did the killing.
Right.
Like if you had his blood on there as well, or like her DNA on him or his clothes
Yeah.
or blood or whatever the case, like then it would be more of like a stronger case for the DNA evidence.
Yeah.
But I think you have to throw out that DNA evidence just because you don't know how and where and when it got on.
Yeah, it's true. I'm looking it up now because I'm looking up the study, and it doesn't say that it was published, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but it doesn't say exactly what DNA evidence. I do remember watching the documentary.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it could be hair, it could
totally
be a
forgot
fiber,
what
it
it
could be anything.
Let me see if I could do like a Google search of.
But yeah, so throughout the DNA evidence, he was a Polish barber, right? So he was like a hairdresser in the Whitechapel area. So he was like a local resident, which again, it goes back to the London detectives believe that
He was him.
it was a local that was doing all these killings.
Right.
It did say he had homicidal tendencies and hatred towards women, and he was actually sent to the insane asylum in 1889, where he died shortly thereafter. Okay. So that coupled with the fact that he was local and he had these tendencies, which he actually went to an insane asylum for, and he hated women,
Yeah.
kind of play into the fact that it could be him.
Yeah, so I just typed it in real quick, and this was from it's science.org. And I'm just reading the article like real quick as you're speaking. And it does say that the shawl is speckled with what is claimed to be blood and semen.
Okay.
So, which I found really interesting, though, in a lot of documentaries and a lot of reading, they said none of the victims were sexually assaulted.
Yeah, so there you go.
So, if this guy, Aaron Kaminsky, happened to be with her that night, or it was just on her shawl somehow, I don't know how long like semen really lasts if it was on the shawl, and like,
I mean,
how long can they really extract it? Plus, this is from 2014. I guess they did the study.
But then, like, you can also say, like, if he was that crazy, if he was like committed to an insane asylum, like maybe he got off like after he killed them, the women.
True.
I mean, which is kind of like fucked up. But
so why wouldn't they find more evidence of that at other victims?
Maybe they didn't do DNA on the other victims.
Well, it also seems like too, he killed some of them in the street, so in like alleyways, and some of them they said like the most he had time was like 9 minutes.
Correct.
So it's like, I mean, I know you can do that in 9 minutes, but like to kill somebody, surgically remove like their kidney and some of the other stuff like their bladder and certain things.
Well,
like
that's
organs.
why, like, I think it was like almost a well-educated, like I said, a wild card, like a doctor or like a cop or somebody that knew what they were doing.
Right.
Just because, like if you cut up someone right now, would you know what to like look for or
No.
do anything? Like, no.
Well, think about how much like crap is in there, blood, like just how slippery it will be.
Yeah.
And like you have to maneuver all that while blood is pouring out.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the person, like you said, I totally agree with you 100%, because it knew like the person knew what they were doing. Like they slit the throat, let it like kind of drain out, and then like there would be no, when you puncture like the stomach,
Yeah, there would be
or
no
abdomen
like
area or like kidney, like there would be no like bleed out. So this person definitely knew or read enough to know exactly what they were talking about.
Yeah, like if I was gonna kill somebody and I didn't want a lot of blood like around, like
Yeah.
when I cut them open, I would like cut their femoral artery, like either in their leg or their neck or somewhere, like so it would just like, you ever see that like shoot out?
Yes. I mean, I remember when I got hit in the head,
Yeah.
and I remember I felt like it was like RoboCop when freaking like my blood was just like squirting out of my head.
Yeah, because every time your heart pumps, like it just squirts.
I just remember seeing it as like a little kid, and I had to get like 7 stitches in my head.
That time we took down the Hot Wheels down the stairs.
Oh, that's true. You did that. Well, you were also pulling me in the wagon. I fell off and hit.
Yeah, well,
my
that,
head.
that
That was your fault. Now I got stitches and blood was coming out. I could still see it to this day.
okay.
I can. I have nightmares about it.
What about Mom putting her fist through the window after you slammed the door on her?
Yeah, I wanted ice cream.
Well, you didn't get it.
I was a bad kid.
But yeah, like I think they had to know what they were doing, just because of that fact. Like if you put any person in that situation, even like you say like an animal, and be like, all right, like cut it open and like take out their heart or whatever, it's gonna take them a while to figure that out.
Well, that's
more than 9 minutes.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like, all right, how long did they do this for? How many killings did they do prior to this?
See, that's the always when people talk about serial killers or any killers, like even the Zodiac killer, right?
Ooh, I really like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. They think he did like a couple killings before the actual first reported Zodiac killing.
Right.
Just because of the fact that the earlier killings in any serial killers
Are messy.
and you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's where most of them get caught, is the first couple ones, because they don't know what they're doing.
True. Yeah, it's so tough. It's like tough. Like this is just trying to piece it together. Like one of the other people, he was one of the top ones on my list, is Charles Leacham. and he was also known as Charles Cross, which, again, if you look at this, Charles Cross is at 10.93% on the chart.
So he's up
where
there.
his rating. Yeah, so he's up there pretty high on this one. But see, this is, again, too, because I believe you, and I believe the fact that this person knew what they were doing surgically.
Yeah, I had to.
And this guy, he was just a meat cart driver, you know, for the Pickford's company.
Yeah, but then, you know, he was around meat. You know, he's around, like, butchers and everything like that. So you could gain some knowledge, I'm sure.
True, but like on humans as well, like you would know how to do animals, but I guess
And
like,
you could read books, I guess, the only thing I would say.
well, that's true. And this person was interesting because we also had a comment on our YouTube channel too, where somebody did say, let's see, where is it? They thought like the witness, which was totally different than what we had, but you know, this was one of the witnesses too, where this guy, he was a witness that discovered the first body of the Ripper victims.
Ripper victims.
Say that
Ripper.
fast. Yeah, Mary Ann Nichols. And in a documentary titled Jack the Ripper, The New Evidence, Swedish journalists, Holmgren, and criminologists, they all looked at this guy and said, like, he does fit the profile really well. Like, one of the main points that they really, you know, picked apart about him is that he was one of the witnesses. So they thought, like, all right, maybe he wasn't a witness. Maybe somebody was coming along and he did kill the person.
Yeah, and
you know,
he just
Mary
said,
Ann
like,
Nichols,
you know.
and he said, oh, well, I saw somebody that was here. Because later on he did, which was interesting, he lied under oath and he kind of retracted his story. And he gave, like, this pretty much the surname of his stepfather, Charles Cross. So that's where he, you know, they kind of caught him in a couple lies. So it was really interesting to me. And I said, all right, he's lying to the police. He said he witnessed it. Did he really now? Like, you're already now setting the bar pretty high as you lie to it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you do that coupled with other things. And he lived in the area. He worked in the area. He knew the area really well. So did he know these people? It was just really convenience. He knew, like, all right, their schedules. He knew what time they were going to be at certain places. So that's also, like, another check mark in my book. And one of the profilers did say he did come from a broken home.
Which that's what most of that, you know, serial killers come from is broken homes.
Yeah, he said this fit the serial killer profile.
Mommy or
extremely
daddy
well.
issues.
Yeah, he didn't know his biological father. He had 2 stepfathers. He moved around a lot. He had a lot of broken homes.
But then wouldn't you want to go after fathers? Or, like, guys?
I don't know. Maybe, like, the mom beat him and he had, like,
I don't know.
mom issues. I don't know. But that's what he said. And he also said in here, too, as far as Holmgren, he said that he looked at, like, his profile and he said he could have committed more crimes beside, you know, like this one. And as for, you know, definitely pointing to Mary Ann Nichols. And I guess my last one that I had. But I
top
guess
one?
I could give you a wild card because we were talking about this before.
Okay.
But what if it's one of those things where we think it's one killer?
Yeah, and
it's
there's
actually
2.
2 killers.
I don't know. The killings were very similar. You have to have a copycat killer.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe a couple of these guys could have, like, got an idea or knew each other.
Or they both did it, you know, one was watching out and while the other one was doing it.
Yeah, that, like, I've never thought about it. I never saw that theory mentioned anywhere.
Sure, it could be plausible.
I mean, it's just a thought. That would be, like, my wild card. It's not something I think is, like, correct.
Wild card.
Wild card weekend.
Wild card.
But my number one, and who I would vote for. We know that one very well. I wonder how many people get annoyed about that.
Probably a lot.
You think so?
I don't know.
When they hear it like 4 or 5 times? I don't know why you like this.
I like the Christmas rap.
Give me the Big Ben for my... So this is my number one, Jack the Ripper, suspect. And I just rewatched this documentary again, so I might be biased. I'm just going to say that right up front.
Oh, here we go.
Well, this person that I'm about to say, and who I believe is very plausible,
We're going to open up the Erie Vault.
we're going to open it up again. It's not on the list of top suspects.
Toss suspect.
I can't talk today.
Tapas.
Top-
A little tapas food?
Little tapestry?
A little tappy?
We might have to get out of here
tap.
soon because Greg needs to give me a haircut.
Yep, I do. We're going to just shit. Yo, Let's give you a
Shit.
mohawk.
All right, we could do that.
Hawk it up.
All right. Yeah, but he was not on the list at all at jacktheripper.org.
Okay.
So my top pick, and it was also Connie's on Connie's list, and I said I would come back to it, is
Got
Carl
it.
Fagenbaum.
Carl Fagenbaum.
Fernando Fagenbaum. No, Carl Fagenbaum. And one of the documentaries that it was on the History Channel.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because this guy was a German merchant seaman, and he was arrested in 1894 in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And which I found really fascinating. If you look into like the American Ripper, there's a lot of similar stories as this. And I thought the guy that did a lot of this research, let's see, where is it? So the Marriott, he was one of the guys that came up and like pretty much brought this theory on Fagenbaum on the History Channel documentary, whereas also Lawton too. He was the gentleman, William Lawton. He claimed that Fagenbaum had admitted to having hatred towards women and desired to kill and mutilate them. So that was a big thing. Lawton further stated that he believed that Fagenbaum was Jack the Ripper, though covered by the press at the time, the idea was not pursued for more than a century. Lawton accusation was based on author Trevor Marriott, which he was a former British murder squad detective, which he was the documentary that was kind of based on. You know, like they followed him around and he did a lot of detective work, and which I found really interesting if you watch this documentary. Like I said, if I watch another documentary, I could probably be swayed.
Sure.
But Marriott like kind of connected the dots. They had a profiler come in, and he said that whoever was doing this was acting out like some type of sick fantasy. You know?
Well, yeah, most serial killers do.
Right. So where it was one of these things where it said like, you know, he was doing it and he wasn't satisfied until pretty much like the last kill where he completely mutilated Kelly herself. So, and it was also interesting too because the murders in the United States where if you actually correlated and he found the ship that he was on or supposedly on, and it was the time that the Rippers happened, like every time that ship was docked, the murders were like happening that day or like in the vicinity of that time that he was at dock in Whitechapel.
Okay.
And then when they stopped, he found out that the actual, you know, ship left for America, and supposedly like he found and tracked him down to New York City, which was really interesting because even Connie mentions this too. And it was in the investigation in 2011, I believe this documentary was from, where they looked at the Whitechapel murders, but also where what's her name? I can't find it here in my notes. Was it Hoffman that was killed in New York City? Very similar way to the Ripper murders. Let me see if I had that. I think Connie had that in her notes too.
Alison Hoffman?
No. Yeah. So here we go. He immigrated to in America in 1890. So 2 years after Jack the Ripper, you know.
Yeah, but so then
killings, and was convicted for the murder of Julia Hoffman, and was executed.
Yeah.
And yeah, Julia Hoffman was pretty much similar to all the Jack the Ripper cases. And this guy, Marriott, pretty much pinpointed him down. So I was like, all right, there's no DNA evidence, but he did track him, and he was in London at the time of Jack the Ripper. And then he was also in New York City. And obviously we think or, you know, kind of know.
Now, do you think he wanted to kill and then he just used the Jack the Ripper as like a copycat? Because that's like, you know.
Well, that comes back to like my wild card where I say, all right, it could have been two people, or he could have looked at that and said like, all right, I want to do the same thing.
Sure.
So maybe I should start.
Because then he got caught.
Yeah, he did, which was interesting. And why didn't he get caught
in London?
In London.
Exactly. So that makes you kind of think like, was that his first one that he did and he was just following Jack the Ripper?
The documentary, I'll have to find it and put it in the show notes. I forget what it was called. Because it didn't say, like, when I rewatched it, I found it, like, you know, like shared third person on, like, YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I
just go back in your history, I guess.
No, because the first time I watched it was on, like, the History Channel or Discovery Channel, wherever they had it airing.
Oh, okay.
And then when I went to go look at it again, because he was on the top of my list, you know, I looked at it and I was like, ah, crap, I can't find it, but here it is. Somebody's sharing it again. It did say the History Channel, so I do remember seeing it. I just forget what it's called, but I'm sure if you type in Trevor Marriott, he was the British, detective that kind of tracked this down, and it was really interesting because he does piece it together, and he doesn't tell you in the beginning like who the person is, but then he kind of like lays the groundwork.
Sure.
And he's like, all right, this is the guy, but to connect him, and then when he came over to New York, I guess because New York was different than Whitechapel, London at the time, because there was a lot of different alleyways in Whitechapel, so it was a lot more to
maneuver. Yeah.
yeah, not just that, but also hide. Whereas New York, it just, they had the streets, it's like
Yeah, there's
one
no
goes north and south, one goes east and west. So there's not like, there is alleyways, but there's not as many. And then a lot of the neighbors heard shit and said stuff. So maybe
Americans don't stand for that shit.
they really don't. We're suburbanites.
Suburbanites.
That's right. So maybe that's why he got caught. Maybe like, after his last killing, he was on such a high that he wanted to do even more.
Yeah.
But he knew like if he did anything else in London, he could have got caught. And then he came over here. I just thought it was interesting that he did track him down, and it was a very similar murder. Like there's no other evidence
Other than that.
linking this guy to, besides what this detective found. Like he did have these tendencies. I mean, he did commit this last murder here in New York City.
Yeah.
So you have to think like they can pinpoint him for that, definitely. So
I mean,
he
it
was
is
definitely
plausible.
a killer.
Sure, it is plausible.
I don't know.
All right.
Do you have any more wild cards? Any more information you think?
No.
I don't know. Like looking at this information, I love it, but then it's also like this is the biggest mystery. I think that. But
I don't know. There's a lot of big mysteries.
well, in terms of like unsolved murders and just like looking at it and how many different mysteries that you know of have like 50, 60 suspects. It's like, oh, you're a suspect. Oh, it could be Jill the Ripper, or it could be Carl Fagenbaum, or it could be, James Kelly, or it could be Aaron
the Zodiac
Kaminsky.
Killer.
Yeah, but that is like there's not like a long list of people.
No.
There's not like a long list of people that are writing books that like pinpoint. Imagine, just think about how many names are on there, right? And just think about like if you're part of this family and like, oh, you're Aaron Kaminsky's like great grandson. Oh, he killed, he was Jack the Ripper. Like that's what I'm saying. Like there's so many different names that are floating out here. Like even when you go to Jack the Ripper, like I keep saying this website, but when you go to vote,
JackTheRipper.org.
like they even have H.H. Holmes on here. They have, the guy that you said like was the prince. So they have what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So they have what? 32 suspects that you could choose from on their website. And it's one of those things where, I don't know, I just look at it and I say, that's a long list. And I don't think there's any other, I guess, case file or mystery that's out there that has this long list of 32 suspects that like people all don't agree on. You know what I'm saying? Like when you look at people, how they vote, what people talk about, like even what Connie gave us.
Well,
she
yeah,
had two
because like
people
it's
that we didn't even think about.
I know,
or
but
didn't
it's
even
just
talk about.
that's because it's so old that that everyone comes up with these different theories and they start connecting all the dots and everything like that. And it is such like a popular case that everyone's gonna have their own theories.
So if you were voting on the website right now, who are you voting for?
Aaron Kaminsky.
Oh shit! So you would be pretty much the majority of people, 16%.
I don't know. I would maybe vote my wild card guy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Jill the Ripper?
Yeah. Do they have wild card?
No, they just have on here just some local nobody. So that I guess that would be like a wild card.
Yeah, that
so
would be my
would
wild
you would
card.
vote for that. I'm gonna vote right now for Carl Fagenbaum. That's my vote. So that was my vote.
Carl Fagenbaum.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I think the documentary definitely swayed me, and that's why I say, he was my choice.
Yeah.
But then again, you would be in that 4%, like 5% range of people who believe that it could have been a wild card.
I think so.
This one, I think is one of the greatest mysteries, and I don't think we'll ever know.
No, it will go on.
And I kind of like it.
Yeah, we'll go on soft
because it keeps bringing out more documentaries.
I heard Unsolved Mysteries is going to do their first episode on this.
You know, they did the original one. They did Jack the Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a thing on there too.
What did Robert Stack say?
I don't remember, dude. That was a long time ago. That was like in the 80s, I think. It was one of their earlier
In
episodes.
a house, all alone, no one's home.
That's Robert Stack.
I don't know.
Give me more Robert Stack.
I don't know. I would. He always wore that jacket, that fucking trench coat.
He did. I sent you that thing, and that was passed around on social media.
Which one?
Where it said like, when's a good time to wear a trench coat? And then like they had him in all these different places, like in a foggy, like meadow, at a creepy, warehouse.
Dude, he was always in the it was like the tree behind him.
Yeah, he was always in like these creepy places, like this warehouse.
That music was good though.
It was good. They changed it after like season 7, which I was pissed.
We should get that music on the intro.
Why we can't. We'll be cut off now that since it's coming back on Netflix.
No, we'll be good.
No, we won't. That's the time that you I think played Ghostbusters, and we got flagged by Sony.
They didn't like that.
No, I mean we could share it on our podcast. We just couldn't put it on our YouTube channel. They might even flag us for that.
Why?
I don't know. They just might.
I love Ghostbusters.
You love
Ghostbusters.
You love Ghost Hunters? Yeah, you do.
I mean, I did back in the day.
That's another show we got to do. We got to do a lot of shows.
Well, we need to get.
We just need more time. I think we need more time.
Yeah. In here,
we need a certain someone to come in there. If she's listening.
We also need the ghost to come back in.
Yeah, that's for sure. I don't think we're gonna see the ghost for a while right after this pandemic. And
Goddamn coronavirus.
It fucked up everything.
All right, so I think that's it, man.
That's it.
It's gonna be unsolved forever.
Give me that exit music.
Stay spooky.
Nah, it's not the exit music. Give us the exit music. Let's take us out.
Which exit music do you want?
Ah, come on, man. You don't know our exit music by now? That's not it. Jack Lantern Plus made this for us, but that's not it.
I know.
You got to know it. Come on, you're in control of the board and you don't know it. This is why I have to take this stuff away from you.
No, I just can't find it.
I can't find it. It's Kevin. Kevin's on there. There it is. So let us know your thoughts
in the comment section below.
If you're listening to on YouTube or anywhere that you're listening to the show, give us a review. Let us know. Share your comments and everything.
Share your thoughts on who you think it is.
Let us know. Do you believe Greg? It's a wild card?
Aaron
Kaminsky? Or do you believe me, Carl Fagenbaum? I don't know. I voted on just right now on the show, and I could show you that I did vote because I was only allowed to vote once. It says you're only allowed to vote once, which is kind of bummer. But keep up with all the weirdness at nightmare365.com. If you have a story like this for us, you want us to talk about a certain serial killer, give us a call. 732-660-8893 is our phone number, or you can email us at matt@nightmare365.com. But all of our contact information can be found at our website. And we're trying to put together with Jack-O-Lantern Press a special holiday July 4th weekend.
Little Christmas wrap.
No Christmas wrap. It's The Burbs. We're trying to watch The Burbs, hang out, because we believe it's like a holiday summer movie.
It definitely is.
So yeah, we're trying to coordinate all of our schedules to do this show, which I think it would be really neat and cool.
I think it would be.
If we did that. So stay tuned for that. You could just follow with updates on our website. Make sure to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, let's get that number up there, people. What the fuck are you doing? Hit subscribe. Don't hit the bell. I don't care.
Yeah, you don't have to hit the bell, but you will get notifications for live shows that we just did on Jack the Ripper. So I think that's kind of cool. And if you like our content, you can get more of it on our Patreon page, which we have 3 tiers on there. If you just want to support us, we'll give you a shout out. And then we have our extra weekday weirds bonuses, which we've been lacking on. I'm really sorry. And then we have our full one where you could support us. We'll give you videos, give you bonus weekday weirds, extra podcasts like this. I'm going to talk about 2 more suspects on there as well. So check that out. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time,
stay spooky.